Hey everyone, Scottish Warrior 92 here, and welcome to the first ever Ask the Warrior. Well, technically it's the second one, but the first one I done ages ago. I only got 4 questions, and I'd really just consider that my first attempt at a Q&A. This is going to be a series in which I'm basically just going to ask for questions on my Twitter, Facebook, and a video, of course. And you can ask me any question whatsoever. It can be gaming related, it can be any question whatsoever, and I'll compile them into a list of questions. I'm only going to do it if I get about 10 questions, because I think that would really make a good episode, and thankfully I managed to get a good chunk of questions. So I got about 13, 14 questions, so let's get straight into them. I put them into categories, basically like who asked them, and then I'm going to ask the questions they asked me, because I say you could ask multiple questions. I wasn't too bothered with that, and that will be my staple from now on. If you want to ask a single question, you can ask a single question. If you want to ask multiple questions, you can ask multiple questions. I will announce when I'm going to do these, but at the moment this is the first one. And let's get straight into it with the first set of questions, which are from GamerMD83. And big thank you for your questions, GamerMD83. You asked 3 questions, and let's get to the first one. The first question you asked was, if you were automatically transferred into Mass Effect, what race would you be? This is not about choice, it's about personality traits. That's a real tricky question. If I'm going by my personality traits, I'm quite a fast thinker. I'm always thinking, I'm always like, well, what can I do, what if I do this, what if I do that, what if I do that, ha ha ha, what if this happens, what if this happens, what if that, blah blah, I'm constantly thinking like that, and that is kind of Solarian-ish, but at the same time I think I'm a good listener. I can always listen to people, and if they have problems, I can normally just sit there and comfort them and help them out another way. I'm always a good listener and a good comfort kind of person. So I have a side traits. Another thing, I'm also very patient. It might not seem like it, but I'm a very patient person. I can be patient for a long time and wait for things. Even though sometimes it may not seem like it, I can be very patient. So, if I'm going by other traits, I'm also very loyal. This is a real tricky one, because I'm trying to pick out traits, because I really don't know myself that well. Besides that, I'm a fast thinker, I'm patient. I can almost solve a problem fairly quickly, but sometimes I do like to take my time with that. So, going by those traits, I would say that I'm also, and of course being a good listener and all that, I'm babbling on. If I'm going by the traits, I'd say I'm more like an Asari for that reason. And no, it's not because I have issues of being a man. The Asari are asexual, they're both male and female. So if I'm going by most of my traits, I would probably say I'm more like an Asari. But if I had to be more of like how I think and all that, if I was going by how I think, I probably would be a Solarian. If going by my personality and all that, like who I am as a person, I probably would say I'm more of an Asari than any of the other races. Patient and good listener, always very compassionate, but can be a right out hard ass if I need to be. So I think I'd be a bit more of an Asari, and if it was going by my thinking method, I'd be a Solarian. So probably an Asari whose one of the parents was a Solarian. So kind of like that. So probably an Asari if I'm going to be honest. Hope that answers the question. Yeah, this one's gonna be fun. What is the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to you? If you can't think of the most embarrassing thing, just mention an embarrassing moment. That's another question from GamerMD. I actually don't get embarrassed that often. I'm not one of these people that gets embarrassed every like 5 seconds or so. You could see me butt naked and I wouldn't be embarrassed whatsoever, because I'm one of those people that believes the body is not a sexual thing. I don't get embarrassed seeing naked bodies or anything. I don't get embarrassed like that. But there was one thing that if I had to consider would be probably one of the most embarrassing things that ever happened to me, and it was a few years ago. I was down at a course for my martial arts that I was doing at the time, and I was going for grading, and it was a full weekend course from Friday to Sunday, and an absolute horrible weather, I'll say that right now. Luckily we were indoors for the most of the time. The facility where we were doing our martial arts was not that far away from the hotel that we were staying at. So unfortunately the weather decided, Scottish weather of course, it was pouring down, and we had to run from the gym and the facilities that we were using to the hotel, which wasn't a long run, but still it seemed like a long time. So I got completely and utterly drenched from head to toe. Luckily I bought a spare karate suit, but the thing is I only brought 2 pairs of underwear, because I don't wear underwear that often, if I'm going to be honest. I go commando most of the time. But for my martial arts I had to wear them just in case anyone scanted me. And unfortunately the radios were occupied by other people's stuff in the room that I was sharing with 2 other people, and I couldn't put them anywhere. So what I done was I'll put them on the window ledge. I'll put them on the window that was opened and put them there so the heat rises up and it dries them off. And I was going to take them down at the end of the night, and I completely forgot. And what happened was probably quite embarrassing. My underwear somehow, because the wind was quite strong as well, blew out and fell down onto the front door of the hotel. And no one noticed it there until I was going out, getting ready to go for training, and I looked down and I went, oh fuck. It was kind of embarrassing, but not as embarrassing as a lot of other things. But it was, I don't get embarrassed that easily. It may seem, I was a bit embarrassed, but it wasn't like I laughed it off. I tend to do that a lot. I laugh off a lot of stuff. So it wasn't extremely embarrassing, but it was quite embarrassing. Like, and of course, for the entire rest of the weekend, I got called Skid Mark. Not fun, and I think you can guess why. So yeah, that was a pretty embarrassing moment for me. As I said, I'm not that kind of guy that gets embarrassed that often, but I've had to say that was pretty damn embarrassing. Another question from MD: how tall are you? I'm about 6 foot, 6'1", give or take an inch or two. I haven't measured myself recently, but I'd say I'm about 6 foot, so I'm quite tall, but average height. Okay, the next set of questions are from Alex the Hunted. If you had to choose between the Quarian and the Geth, what would make your decision? I'm tongue tying right here. If you had to choose between the Quarians or the Geth, what would make you decide which one? That's a tricky question. Now, if you don't know what he's talking about in Mass Effect 3, more than likely we're going to have to try and convince the Quarians and the Geth to work along each other, which is going to be a major pain in the ass. And more than likely you're going to, maybe one of the options is you have to choose between one of the races and you can't convince them. I see the pros and the cons of using both of them. If we use the Geth, they're vast numbers, they're synthetic, they're very intelligent. They have a superior good amount of firepower, and they are quite powerful against there, but at the same time they're just machines. Like, the Reapers could probably hack the Geth quite easily, so it would be quite tricky to just take them in and risk getting them all hijacked and all that. And the Quarians, however, they created artificial intelligence, they created the Geth. They would know more than anyone about the AI besides the Geth themselves. The Quarians are a loyal people. They will be loyal to you. They have the largest fleet in the Citadel space, so that's a bonus. But at the same time, they have a weakened immune system. Not all of them are fighters. There are a lot of children and a lot of innocent people there. So I see the pros and cons of both of them. But if I had to say one, I'm a big sucker for the underdog, and also the one that has the more likely one to fight and last a good bit of time, and I'd have to go with the Quarians, and this is my reason why. Because the Quarians have the largest fleet, and I believe that would have a more significant impact in the fight against the Reapers than the Geth fleet, which we don't know the size of yet, which could be fairly big or fairly small, we don't know. So I would probably go with the Quarians because they have a good amount of numbers. Cal Rieger is one of the examples of their military, so I'm pretty sure they've got a great military. They're very loyal, and they have the largest fleet in Citadel space. So I probably would go with the Quarians, if I'm going to be honest. And of course, I wouldn't want to piss off Tali because she would kill me. Okay, next question from Alex the Hunted. What do you think BioWare could do for the DLC after Mass Effect 3? Okay, DLC for Mass Effect 3. Besides the Day 1 DLC with the Prothean, which is everyone's gone on pissing off about, I'm thinking probably backstory. That's what I'm going to be thinking, because this is really the end of the trilogy for Shepard and possibly the end of the war against the Reaper. So I think it would make a lot more sense to have maybe backstory on people, maybe a DLC featuring the First Contact War, a DLC featuring certain characters' backstories, events and maybe even going back to maybe the Protheans in some way, shape or form as a DLC, maybe have a bit of backstory on the Prothean crew member you're going to have besides maybe the Wobby backstory in his DLC. So for DLC, as I said, I think that would be quite interesting, more of a backstory into the Mass Effect mythos, maybe the First Contact War, from both perspectives, if I'm going to be honest, from both the human side and the Turian side. I really would love to see what it was like during the First Contact War, and some more information about the Protheans would be interesting, and maybe a point in the Prothean conflict with the Reapers. I think that would be quite interesting. So yeah, I think that would be one of the more interesting parts. So yeah, that's all I've got to say on that. So there's a lot of things you could say about DLC. There'll be a lot of cosmetic ones, I can guarantee that. But for story-wise, backstories, and maybe an aftermath, like what happened after, maybe 3 years after the war with the Reapers, how is the universe after that, depending on the ending of Mass Effect 3. So it could be like that. An aftermath or an epilogue one would be nice as well. So yeah, I think that would be pretty good, pretty cool for me.